What kind of business are you in today on the Landlord Coach Daily Show? Let's drop the needle.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Boom, boom, chuck, boom, 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 chuck. Love that. Love that entry sequence. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Dolfini, Landlord Coach. It's really good to see you today. Let me know where you're coming from. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know where you're at. If it's, I'd love to have it international. I don't know that I have anybody outside the United States that watches this show at all. So if you are from outside the United States, love to hear from you right now. I think a lot of people are probably looking outside the United States because it's kind of it seems like it's a hot mess of things that are going on right now, but whatever. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some good stuff. We're going to talk about positive stuff because right now I feel, I mentioned this to a couple people the other day about, there seems to be like a 5% on either side, no matter if you're, hard right or hard left. There's this like 90% of us that are in the middle that are just like, can we just get on with our lives, please? And yeah, there's definitely a silent majority right now that just wants all the bickering and all the pettiness to stop. And yeah, so let us, I think we need to, focus back on really what's important rather than just staying about and forcing ourselves to be right. And I don't know, there's maybe something to be said for that. I was listening to a book of, it's called Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. And one of the 6 principles of persuasion was commitment and consistency. And people will, if they start with a small commitment, they want to be consistent. So they'll stay on that same path and go larger and larger and larger commitments, right? So it starts out with a really small commitment, and then the next thing you know, it's like a little bit larger commitment, and the next thing you know, it's a larger and larger commitment, right? Like, that's how people wind up in trunks of cars, right? This is how cults are formed. So I don't know. I think there's something to be said, and I'm not picking on any particular party. I literally have no shits to give anymore about that. I'm just saying, like, whoever your party was, whoever the dog was in the race for you, you win or lose, let's just move on so we can move on together and united, because it is getting a little ridiculous. So today what we're going to talk about is, what kind of business are you in? And it's probably not going to follow the vein in terms of what you might be thinking. Like, well, I'm in the real estate business, or, I'm in sales, or whatever it is. Like, I'm maybe you'll hear what I'm going to go here in just a second. But the interesting thing that, I'm thinking back to when I was trying to run my rental business. And this is back, I'm thinking this particular story, I was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I was trying to get this rental business, things were running better for sure. Back from like 2010, when I'm climbing out of my bunker from when I was losing all my properties. But, I had a property management business going. I had the rentals that I was going to manage to keep, that I was able to pull out of foreclosure. So I'm trying to run this rental business. I'm trying to be super efficient, super effective, and all this thing. And I had this one problem with these residents that they had been residents of mine for a really long time. And, they were not being communicative. They'd fallen behind in their rent, and they just weren't talking to us. So I was like, you know what? I mean, I knew that they worked a bunch of crazy hours, but I was like, look, we just need to get it. Let's just get them in here. We'll have a quick 20-minute conversation, kind of tell them where it needs to be, and then we'll get either something worked out or not worked out, but then we could all just kind of move on with our day. Right. So we're having this conversation, we get the guy of the couple, we get him in, and he's this big dude. And, it was me and my AGM, Jamie, were sitting there, and we were having this conversation with him. And all of a sudden, he starts to get really upset, and he starts to cry. And we weren't expecting this, like, even remotely at all. We were like, what is happening right now? Because we knew he was a nice guy, but we just never, like, he was hitting like this emotional, like he's having this emotional moment, and neither Jamie or I were really prepared for, like, what is happening right now. There's no crying in property management. And we just were not, we weren't prepared for that at all. And it was interesting because during that conversation, now I had known him for a while, and I'd known his bride for a really long time. They had rented a lot of different units from us, but there was something that he kept saying that I don't think that he realized he was saying it. And he kept talking about his anxiety. And there were certain things that were happening, and because of his anxiety, and he kept saying my anxieties, my anxiety was causing this, and my anxiety, and so this was happening, and because, she wasn't able to work, my anxiety, and, he kept referencing my anxiety. And I don't think that he recognized that he was doing that. So, of course, we're just, let him have his moment there, and he, we kind of got the conversation back together, and I felt like I had had enough of a rapport with him to say this to him, because he is a good guy. And they still rent from us, but he was a good guy. And I just kind of, we worked it out. And after Jamie had left the room, I had asked him, I said, is there a reason why you keep referring to your anxiety as my anxiety, as if your anxiety only belongs to you, as if, my anxiety, as if it only impacts you? And you could tell, like, I was asking him in a very sincere way, and you could tell that he was asking, like, the way I was asking, and he was like, wow, like, no one had ever asked him from that perspective before. And he had I think a clinical issue with it, but I don't think he'd ever realized how he was putting ownership to that, my anxiety. And here it was funny, we were ready to, like, kind of have this, come to Jesus talk with this guy about, hey, this is this is where the line in the sand is, you need to pay, or, you need to get out, or, this is kind of not necessarily the tone of the conversation, but that's where we were prepared to bring the conversation. And I'm reminded in that moment that this business that I'm in, it wasn't about real estate. It wasn't about rents, collecting rents. It wasn't about, running and, having a business that didn't bring in the human component to this business. Real estate, especially, particularly, is a people business. Real estate is a people business. There's no getting around that. I talk to people on occasion that say, well, I'm like, why do you want to get into house flipping, or why do you want to get into, whatever business that they think that they're going to be in, especially in real estate that does not involve people? Like, well, I'm really not good with people, so I figured I would get into, this type of business. And I'm like, how in the world do you think, like, who lives in, like, where does money come from in real estate? Well, it comes from people. Well, how do you think you're going to get around the human component in this business at all? This business is about people. It's about solving problems for people. Even if you're, a wholesaler or a fix and flipper, it's about solving problems for other people. How are you going to get around that? Even for those of you who, I know there's several people who watch this show that are not in real estate at all, that are in the B2B business, it's still at some point, you boil it down from B2B, it's still a person buying from a person. Like, there's still a human component involved in that. It's, or still there's a human component that's involved in the makeup of that. At some point, the decision has to be made by a human being. So it's very rare that there's just there's completely humans that are taken out of the entire equation. So when I ask, what kind of business are you in? I'm thankful that, I was thinking about it today. I've had several conversations with different people, coworkers, today that work in different aspects of my businesses and different businesses that I have. And I'm thankful that I was able to set up a business that does not forget the human component. I still screw it up. I still mess up. I mean, and there's going to be times it's because, again, we are running this by humans. So of course we're going to make mistakes. Of course there's things that are going to get messed up. But at the end of the day, we still try to bring it back into the human component. That's the business that we're in. And I think that reflects in the way that I run my business and the way that the businesses are set up and the way that I would expect the businesses to be run. As we're in the human being business, not in the, that sounds like a lot like human trafficking, but kidding aside, I mean, we're in the business of serving other human beings. And the best way that we are able to do that. And that's why I'm really, really thankful for the people that do work with me and for me and alongside of me. I'm really grateful for that. And I think that, in this, of course, right now, it's really hard for me not to have this, and I don't want to sound preachy, but, I'm looking at no matter what news network you watch, and I don't watch the news on purpose because most of it is just flat inactionable and not relevant to me. But, some of the stuff that I was watching was about what this party is doing and what that party is doing and what these people are doing. And can you imagine? And, what they're going to take away from you and make it, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous on both sides. And I think right now we just need a little bit more of the realization that there's human beings attached to this. There's human beings that are losing their lives literally for just based on an ideology. And I think at the end of the day, we just need to remember that there's human beings attached to all of this. Not that you necessarily need to get sucked into their drama, but there's human beings attached to that. So I don't know. When I think about the businesses that I'm in the human being business and solving problems in any way that I can solve for them. So that's, I think that if you take a look at, what business that you really want to be in, whether you're looking at real estate or whatever it is, whatever it happens to be, that you're, you don't forget, you don't lose sight of that. So my bride is saying, hello, sweetheart. It's good to see you. And yes, I will be home at a reasonable time before you ask. So, Cheryl Clower, it's nice to see you. Thanks for the like on that. If there's anybody, nobody else, nobody posted in terms of where they're at. So no one intergalactic today is posting on the page. All right, well, maybe next time. All right, well, that's all I have for today. Let's go ahead and finish this out with the quote of the day. I thought this was really cool, and I'm I think I actually misspelled this guy's name. Is it Bona Muhammad? Boomer Muhammad? I don't know. I apologize if I've misspelled this, but now it's going to bother me because I'm going to have to check this. Yeah, I think it's Bona Muhammad. But he is. It says what he stated was he's a Canadian poet, and I think he's in some movies as well. But how you make others feel about themselves says a lot about you. And I think that is incredibly true. So thank you for that quote, sir. And let's go ahead and finish this show off. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your time. And of course, if you don't place a value on your free time, someone else will. But most important, there is no amount of money that will make time irrelevant. Have an awesome day, and I will see you next time.